No Kings rallies are expected to fill the streets of Colorado in protest of the Trump administration, despite efforts to clamp down on criticism of the president.
I don't think Coloradans are going to be afraid, and I don't think that they are afraid.
Denver's voters are being asked to approve a nearly $1 billion wish list. We'll break it down. They're not just day drinking, they're helping law enforcement.
It feels really weird getting drunk, with cops all around you.
And don't believe what you see on the news. Coloradans care about their neighbors.
I'm just so grateful for good people in this community.
You see it all the time on Next. Thousands of Coloradans are expected in the streets tomorrow for the No Kings protests against what organizers say is an increasingly authoritarian Trump administration. Meanwhile, the president is pushing to send troops into Chicago, and his administration is likening Americans who criticize him to terrorists. No Kings protests in Denver last spring brought out enormous crowds. Organizers say that they expect this weekend's crowd to be about half the size of the spring protests, so that would be 10,000 to 15,000 people, still huge for a protest in Colorado. Since those spring protests, the Trump administration has stepped up political retaliation, the use of the military against Democrat-run cities, and mass immigration raids that some judges have tried to block as lawless and unconstitutional. Today, President Trump is asking the Supreme Court to overturn lower courts that are blocking his use of the military in Chicago. And Republicans are describing this weekend's coming protests as the work of Antifa, a loosely affiliated far-left movement that President Trump has declared to be a domestic terrorism organization. Top Republicans are now conflating Antifa with the everyday Americans who oppose President Trump. Trump's top advisor, Stephen Miller, has said the Democratic Party itself is a domestic extremist organization. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson said that the No Kings protests this weekend are a Hate America rally.
Well, they call it the No Kings rally. We call it the Hate America rally because we have all the Marxists collected, all the Antifa people, the BLM remnants. You'll have the pro-Hamas wing of the Democratic Party, and they're going to be out here demonstrating and screaming and wailing.
Today, I spoke with progressive activist and former state rep Joe Salazar, who's speaking at Denver's No Kings rally Saturday, and I asked him if he thinks Coloradans will be afraid to come to the streets and protest as the Trump administration cracks down on dissent.
We're not afraid of a dictator, and we shouldn't be afraid of a dictator. I think that as Americans, we need to remember where we come from, where we've been, and the fact that we stand in the face of authoritarianism throughout many generations. We shouldn't be afraid to attend a rally, a peaceful rally at that.
In a moment, more of my conversation with Joe Salazar. I'll ask him about the potential for confrontations in Denver streets and his warning to Colorado's elected Democrats not to treat these protests as a photo op. The Trump administration continues to use the government shutdown, day 17 now, to punish the states that voted against him. This time, pausing Army Corps of Engineers water infrastructure projects in blue states that, according to Politico, include Colorado. President Trump has repeatedly drawn court challenges for taking control of spending that is constitutionally directed by Congress. Politico reports the latest action on that front pauses and potentially cancels about $7 billion worth of projects, about half intended for New York, and New York City in particular because it's been designated so-called sanctuary city. Now, the Trump administration describes Denver similarly. A city spokesperson told me today they're not aware of a pause in any Army Corps of Engineers projects here. We didn't hear back from the Corps or the Federal Office of Management and Budget. Right now, Denver's voters are being asked to approve almost $1 billion in various projects, from $500,000 to improve city pools to $89 million to literally pave the way for the future Broncos Stadium on 8th Avenue. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger breaks down what's being pitched as the Vibrant Denver Bond.
A rebuild of this 8th Avenue viaduct, which goes over Burnham Yard, the future Broncos Stadium, is $89 million of ballot issue 2A. Denver voters will decide 5 bond issues on the November ballot. 2A is for transportation projects. The big ticket items are the 8th Avenue viaduct and the 6th Avenue viaduct just to the south. On the city's own bridge website, these viaducts are listed as orange or fair. Not great, but not the worst. There are 67 poor bridges in the city, including the 6th Avenue Bridge over Cherry Creek, which would also be replaced if 2A passes. Other parts of 2A would make improvements for cyclists and pedestrians along West 38th in North Denver and Evans Avenue from near DU all the way east to the border with Arapahoe County. 2B is about parks and recreation. The biggest item is $70 million to turn the former Park Hill Golf Club into a city park. There would also be a Southeast Denver Rec Center and skate park for $20 million. 2C is for Health and Human Services, $20 million toward helping Denver Health upgrade this family health center in Sun Valley, and $10 million to help fund a new children's advocacy center. 2D is about libraries, art, culture, and overall facilities. $75 million would be for a new public safety training center, $35 million to upgrade the backstage area at Red Rocks, and $20 million for a future American Indian Cultural Embassy near DIA. There is also money to make improvements to 5 city libraries, including Bear Creek and Montbello. 2E is for housing and shelter, with $45 million for the city to buy land or buildings for affordable housing, and $11 million to make accessibility improvements at current shelters. Bond measures allow the city to borrow money for projects and pay it back over time using already existing property tax dollars. A rejection of any of the ballot issues would mean those specific projects do not get dedicated funding, but it does not mean property taxes would suddenly go down. There are existing bonds that are still being paid back. A rejection of any of these ballot issues would mean those old bonds get paid back faster. For property taxes to possibly be reduced, that would require voters to reject bond issues moving forward.
So let's look at the history of bond votes. As I say that the only way to reduce your property tax is if you continue to reject them. In 2021, voters passed all but one bond issue. They rejected the one that would have built a 10,000-seat arena at the National Western Complex. There's still a handful of 2017 bond projects still waiting to be finished and 2021 projects, but those had a 10-year time frame, so they're not exactly late just yet.
And this is not just one yes or no vote. It's put into sections like the watertight bulkheads on a sinking ship.
You put just enough probably to get people to like enough of one, where you can't say no necessarily, even though you don't like maybe one or two things. Well, I like this thing, so I'm going to vote yes on this. But they're sectioned off by topic, essentially, until you get to the miscellaneous.
But what if one of them starts taking on water? Then down it goes, and the rest might still be floating.
Correct. That's yes. In your analogy, yes. So, but and in the case of 4 years ago, it was the arena.
Mayor Hancock's signature arena at the National Western
that took on all the water.
That voters said, down it goes to the bottom of the sea. Marshall Zellinger, thank you. These days, there is less stigma around seeking help with mental health. That is fantastic. Except that it means that there is now an overwhelming demand for a nonprofit that pays for free therapy for kids at risk of suicide. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is supporting the Second Wind Fund. That nonprofit connects young people in crisis with licensed specialized therapists, and they'll pay for up to a dozen of those therapy sessions. They're currently not able to meet every request for help, but every $1,000 that we raise means another young person in crisis is going to get that help. And we've raised about $40,000 so far this week. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get the link to join me and others in donating. More than 6,000 of you are already donating monthly to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once each month, automatically your donation goes to every nonprofit that we feature. Same QR code or text will get you there. That's how we started this campaign with about $30,000 in donations.
It is 10:46 in the morning. I am now on my second drink.
No, she doesn't have a problem. These people are fine. They're doing training. And it is Friday, so we will set aside the headlines in the news and go find the good in our neighbors. This week, it is a life-changing act of caring. Next. No Kings protests against the Trump administration are planned tomorrow in Denver and smaller cities and towns across Colorado. We return now to our next conversation with progressive activist and former state rep Joe Salazar. He's speaking tomorrow and says he's not worried about President Trump painting protesters as the radical left.
No matter what anybody says, he's going to try to paint them with the radical left brush. My message is about unity. It's a reminder of what we are as Coloradans and how we built this state No one person built this state. We built it together. We were unified as a community in building it together. And we need to unify as a community now, moving forward in the face of authoritarianism in the third decade of the 21st century of America.
Both of us know how mass protests can go, how different people show up with different objectives, different motives. What would be your message to anybody who wants to use the cover of the large crowd this weekend in Denver to cause trouble, to destroy property, to get into physical confrontations?
You know, the First Amendment still exists, but the First Amendment does not allow for violence. I'm hoping that they don't engage in violent action. That's not what we're there for.
What do you say to folks who are on the right in Colorado who think that the folks who are out there this weekend are paid agitators, who are looking for trouble, who are not genuinely about this?
By and large, we're talking about Americans. We're talking about their neighbors. We're talking about business owners. We're talking about farmers and ranchers. I mean, we're talking about people who are absolutely fed up, not just with Republicans, but also Democrats too, and who are speaking out in one accord and saying enough's enough with this crap.
You're solidly to the progressive side of the centrist Democrats who hold most of the levers of power in Colorado right now in terms of the top elected positions. Do you think those centrist elected Dems are going to show up tomorrow to protest?
You know, centrists show up to things when it best suits them, when it best elevates their profile. They're not there necessarily for a progressive left message. But if they could get on the stage, yeah, they'll show up. If they can stand next to one of the speakers and take a picture with them, yeah, they'll show up.
I mean, that doesn't
But yeah,
sound like a very warm welcome for them to show up tomorrow and stand with you. I mean, do you want them there or no?
I want people to stand with me who are willing to stand with me and not there on their own political agenda. I want them to stand with us as Coloradans, as Americans, standing up for our Constitution, because that's what tomorrow is about.
You can see that full conversation on the next YouTube channel, 9news.com. Meteorologist Chris Bianchi is along preparing for a warm weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be warm for that Broncos-Giants game. A lot of trash talk between those two games. And that all results in temperature near 80 degrees as the Broncos host the Giants at Empower Field Mile High on Sunday afternoon. Otherwise, Futurecast, we get a cold front that moves through tomorrow morning. You'll notice that it will bring in a rush of wind tomorrow. A few rain, snow showers across northern Colorado, Fort Collins, Greeley, best chance at that. But the thing you'll notice more than anything else tomorrow as that front moves through, ooh, that wind, it is going to be whipping. It's going to be a cold, raw wind, straight north wind, about 4 to 6 hours of 40-mile-an-hour gusts for us here in Denver. That wind relaxes tomorrow night. But as that wind relaxes, it'll drop those temperatures. High temperature of just 60 tomorrow. But then we've got a frost advisory for us in Denver for tomorrow night. Freeze watch across the eastern plains as well. And that 7-day forecast temperatures, mostly in the 60s all the next week.
Mark Salinger asked our bosses if he could get a little tipsy this Friday. He's working, so they said no. So instead, Mark watched other people get sloshy in the name of keeping us safe.
Back in college, someone once told me, hey, you can't drink all day unless you start in the morning.
Thank you.
They probably weren't envisioning this.
It feels really weird getting drunk, like, with, like, cops all around you.
Well before most bars even open.
It is 10:46 in the morning. I am now on my second drink.
Colorado State Patrol is slinging drinks like it's science.
Abby, I need you to go have a double.
I'm supposed to have 10 drinks.
Terry, I need you to go have a double.
Yeah, this is a lot earlier than I normally start drinking.
They call it a wet lab. You get a couple drinks in you, and it quickly turns into a bunch of people getting drunk in a conference room surrounded by state troopers.
It's not the vibe I normally go after.
Starting early. It's gonna be a long day.
Don't worry, they volunteered for this.
It's not an open bar. This is a very controlled environment where we measure out every single drop that goes into these beverages.
The only way State Patrol can train their cadets to spot drunk drivers is to get people drunk.
You want to make sure that they are actually getting that experience of seeing what a drunk person is going to look like on the side of the road.
And so, they drink.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Definitely starting to feel it. Yeah, feeling good.
And it's only 12:30, and so we're in for a ride.
Until it's time for the test.
Oh, I'm gonna fail so bad.
Cadets can't graduate.
Are these the new guys?
Those are the brand new cadets.
Okay, I'll act sober.
Until they know how to do field sobriety tests.
You want me to go all the way?
I just want you to imagine a straight line.
Okay.
So in a sense, yeah, it's kind of like we're back at school.
4, 5, 6.
Even if failing the test is part of the lesson.
8, 9. You guys can tell. 1.
Yeah, they could tell. Yeah. Everyone could tell. I'm told the person who had the most drinks had 14 of them.
Good Lord.
14, and I'm out. I'm under this desk just taking a little bit of a nap. All the cadets said, yeah, we're arresting everyone.
Everybody goes,
yeah.
They drive him home, what happens?
You have, because I almost participated, I wanted to.
Yeah.
So they gave me the information. You have to have a sober driver come pick you up, and then you also have to sign something that says, yes, someone will take care of me for the next 8 to 12 hours.
Well, I hope there's one person out there who sees it who realizes nobody is as sneaky about drinking and trying to operate as they think they are. Nobody is that sneaky.
Everyone was failing.
All right, Mark Salazar, thank you. Like every 5'11" guy who claims he's 6 foot tall, one of Colorado's 14ers has been exaggerating this whole time. And a smart guy who measures mountains for a living just made the discovery.
Crestone was considered the ranked 14er, but in fact, East Crestone is taller. So East Crestone is really the ranked 14er, and Crestone is the sub-peak.
Ha-ha! The truth is finally known. It turns out there's a difference between the peaks of 4 inches. 4 inches. But East Crestone is now the main peak, and Crestone is just the sub-peak, but will always be our short king. If you would prefer for Crestone to become the main attraction again, I am not endorsing tampering with peak heights. But you remember, Harvard and Yale grads used to carry rocks up to the top of Mount Harvard and Mount Yale to make sure that their peak was the taller mountain.
My good news is that after a back injury, I'm walking and working again, thanks to God.
Hard work is good work, right? Especially when it's been a while. More Coloradans will share their good news to cap off our week. Next. A young boy living with disabilities is getting a new way to explore his backyard in Arvada. And we stopped by the community effort with our favorite Friday question. What's your good news?
My good news is we're getting a brand new deck for our family and for Otto to keep exploring and growing and being able to walk and explore his environment and his backyard.
We are trying to give back to the community because we have a little boy that's special needs, and he's a special little boy. He's such a cute little guy.
I had called Rob Schmidt from the deck company, and when I told him about Otto's disabilities, he said, we need to figure out how to do this for you guys for free.
My good news is that after a back injury, I'm walking and working again, thanks to God.
So they're building a whole new deck for us, specifically Otto, so he can have a safe place.
He deserves to have a nice, safe place to play on his in his backyard and access to his backyard from a new deck.
Everything you see here is donated.
It rejuvenates your thoughts about humanity and realizes, like, there are good people out there.
Yes, it does, each and every time. We're back with your feedback next. Feedback about tomorrow's No Kings protest. Janet, who described herself as a PO'd grandma, says tomorrow will be her 5th protest of the year. She wrote, I am absolutely, positively not afraid of this administration at all. Dolores said, I think you're wrong. I think the protests tomorrow are going to be bigger than the ones in June. That wasn't my prediction of the size. That's what organizers were talking about, 10 to 15,000 people. We'll be out there tomorrow, and we'll see what it is. Hey, by the way, a special thank you tonight to our colleague Sydney. She is producing this program for the very first time tonight, filling in. So if you enjoyed the show, I'll pass along your compliments to the chef. I'm just the one who brings the meal to your table. See you next time.